If the helpline really is a tool designed to combat abuse, and not just designed to mitigate the church's legal risk, then why are the only people that can access it bishops and stake
No, I'm
presidents?
not. I was just hoping to talk to someone on the helpline and get some information.
So we actually we don't have an abuse helpline for just general membership. It's just for bishops or stake presidents.
Hi everyone, Nemo here. On the 4th of August 2022, Michael Resendez wrote an article for the Associated Press. The article tells about MJ, whose father, Paul Douglas Adams, sexually abused her and her infant sister for several years. The article goes on to say that the two bishops that knew about this both called the church's ecclesiastical helpline and were told not to call the police or child welfare officials. Church PR machine kicked into gear and released a statement. And as we're about to discover, the church, in its statement, does not dispute the fundamental facts of the Associated Press article. The abuse of a child or any other individual is inexcusable. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes this, teaches this, and dedicates tremendous resources and efforts to prevent, report, and address abuse. Our hearts break for these children and all victims of abuse. A nice boilerplate opener to show the church is really against abuse. And in fairness, at the last General Conference, Patrick Kearon said,
"The abuse was not, is not, and never will be your fault, no matter what the abuser or anyone else may have said to the contrary."
And this is a nice improvement from,
At some point in time, however, the Lord may prompt a victim to recognize a degree of responsibility for abuse.
actions speak louder than words though. And it's easy to say that the church dedicates tremendous resources and efforts to prevent, report, and address abuse. But the Associated Press article is not dealing with what the church might say they are trying to do. It is dealing with what the evidence shows has happened, and the flaws present in the current system. The Associated Press article says this about the helpline. It's part of a system that can easily be misused by church leaders to divert abuse accusations away from law enforcement, and instead to church attorneys who may bury the problem, leaving victims in harm's way. So when you hear in just a moment the church defending the purpose and nature of the hotline, just remember that the Associated Press is pointing out how it can, and allegedly has been, used in hiding sex abuse from legal authorities. Nature and the purpose of the church's helpline was seriously mischaracterized in a recent Associated Press article. The helpline is instrumental in ensuring that all legal requirements for reporting are met. It provides a place for local leaders who serve voluntarily to receive direction from experts to determine who should make a report and whether they, local leaders, should play a role in that reporting. When a leader calls the helpline, the conversation is about how to stop the abuse, care for the victim, and ensure compliance with reporting obligations, even in cases when the law provides clergy penitent privilege or restricts what can be shared from private ecclesiastical conversations. See here, when they say that the nature and purpose of the helpline has been mischaracterized, we've just covered that. But they also don't say how it's been mischaracterized, and they don't dispute that the helpline can, and in this case reportedly did, instruct LDS bishops not to report abuse. The Associated Press article also explains, Mormon leaders established the helpline in 1995, and it is operated not within its Department of Family Services, but instead in its Office of Risk Management, whose role it is to protect the church and members from injury and liability in any array of circumstances, including fires, explosions, hazardous chemical spills, and severe weather. The helpline exists within a department of the church dedicated in part to protecting the church from liability and risk. This could be seen to show that this helpline is more about protecting the good name of the church than protecting the victims of abuse. The helpline is just one of many safeguards put in place by the church. Any member serving in a role with children or youth is required to complete a training every few years about how to watch for, report, and address abuse. But you know what isn't required? Background checks. Unless it is legally mandated. The church just recently in California moved very quickly once background checks became mandatory, offering church buildings as a convenient location for members to complete the application. As well as funding the applications, the church paid for them. And in Australia, where background checks have been mandatory for some time, the church has been compliant with the law. The question on my mind is, certainly now that in some places background checks are mandatory, why does the church not just do background checks, regardless of whether they're required by law or not? Why does the LDS Church seemingly have an attitude of bare minimum when it comes to safeguarding and the law more generally? Why does it take a legal obligation to compel God's one true church to do what is morally right in protecting and safeguarding the most vulnerable? Let me know what you think in the comments. Leaders and members are offered resources on how to prevent, address, and report abuse of any kind. Church teachings and handbooks are clear and unequivocal about the evils of abuse. Members who violate those teachings are disciplined by the church and may lose their privileges or membership. These are just a few examples. Yes, they often are disciplined by the church, but they should also be disciplined by the legal system. Church discipline must be secondary to legal discipline in a case where a crime has clearly been committed and confessed. We can't have religious institutions, full stop, taking the law into their own hands and feeling that their justice is sufficient. The story presented in the Associated Press article is oversimplified and incomplete, and is a serious misrepresentation of the church and its efforts. We will continue to teach and follow Jesus Christ's admonition to care for one another, especially in our efforts related to abuse. They still have not provided any explanation of exactly how they're being misrepresented, nor have they given any evidence to dispute the reports in the article that the church helpline instructed church leaders to not report the abuse of children, and as a result, the abuse of the children continued for several years. The article is also not oversimplified. It's informed by nearly 12,000 pages of sealed records from a lawsuit against the church over child sex abuse in West Virginia. And it's interesting that Jesus is brought in at the end, because I'm pretty sure he said, "But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea." So if they are really following the admonition of Jesus, then I'm pretty sure the good name of the church should not be a priority when advising ecclesiastical leaders who are reporting cases of abuse. Christ was very clear on how we should protect and value children, and yet he didn't say anything himself against homosexuality. However, while the LDS Church throws its legal and political weight around, trying to stop consenting adults of the same sex getting married legally, it seems they aren't willing to use that same weight to remove exceptions to mandatory reporting for their own ecclesiastical leaders in the name of protecting children. But let me know what you think in the comments.